The first Death Star was one of the Empire's greatest weapons ever built, having the capability of blowing up entire planets with a single superlaser. The initiation process to fire the superlaser was done within the command center, where it began with an order from the battle station's commander, which was then carried through by the Superlaser gunnery crew, who did all the appropriate calculations and adjustments to ensure the superlaser hit the targeted planet. Once that process was done, the final step came down to a single guy who was tasked in flipping the last lever that would unleash the superlaser toward the planet. The guy who did this was named 10 Granite, who was responsible for not only all the superlaser firings committed by the first Death Star, but also for possibly saving the rebellion by stalling at his post during the Battle of Yavin. Prior to working on the Death Star, 10 Granite was a young man who was fascinated at firing massive weapons, always hoping to being assigned to the largest gun available. When the time came, he served in the Republic military as a gunner during the Clone Wars, and he later served within the Imperial Navy when the transition occurred. When the Death Star was nearing completion, Granite was among the few hand-picked Imperial gunners to be transferred to the Superlaser gunnery crew. At first, he was absolutely thrilled at the new position, but after going through a simulator that displayed the full power of the battle station that he and his crew would be manning, he began to question whether it was wise for any one man to wield such power. Being a full supporter of the Empire at the time, Granite dismissed his initial concerns by convincing himself that the Empire would never use this super weapon on a populated planet, and that its true purpose was to just strike fear into the chaotic regions of the galaxy, and that it was only ever going to be used on non-populated planets as a means to display its frightening power. The first time he ever actually fired the Death Star superlaser was when a few rebels discovered the battle station's existence and sent their biggest ship to go destroy it, a repurposed Trade Federation droid ship. At the time of this attack, the superlaser was not fully operational and could only fire at limited power. Despite this, at only 4% of its full power, the superlaser that was fired completely obliterated the rebel droid control ship, showing Granite the power that he was about to wield once the superweapon construction was fully complete. Later, he was ordered to fire the Death Star's nearly completed superlaser at the planet Despire, which contained the slave labor that the Empire used for the battle station's construction. It took 3 shots from the superlaser to fully destroy it, with the first one wiping out all life on the surface of the world, the second cracking the planet's deep crust, and finally the third shot destroying it completely. Alderaan became the first planet where the Death Star's superlaser was used at full power, which obliterated the planet in a single shot. After having just killed over 2 billion people, Granite broke down, not being able to comprehend what he had just done. He later labeled himself as the largest mass murderer in the galaxy. Shortly after Alderaan's demise, he was viewed differently around the Death Star's population as word began to spread of how he was the one who pulled the trigger that destroyed the planet and killed all of its people. He quickly began to question his loyalty to the Empire, despising the men at the top who put him in such a position that forced him to commit such atrocious acts. Later, fear took over him as he worried about how if the Rebel Alliance were to win the war, he would be the very first one to be tried and executed by them for his crimes. He thought about quitting his position as a means to protest, but decided not to, understanding that he would just be replaced with someone else, and perhaps not wanting to put the burden of committing genocide on someone else. Finally, the time came when he was ordered to fire the Death Star's superlaser toward the rebel base during the Battle of Yavin, wishing that something would happen that would free him from pulling down the firing lever. He began to stall, repeating over the intercom to his crew and the command center to stand by as a means to give himself a few extra seconds before he committed to the order. During those few seconds, the rebel pilot Luke Skywalker had fired the proton torpedoes inside the exhaust port and successfully compromised the superweapon, causing it to blow up immediately afterwards. 10 Granite, along with everyone else on board, was killed instantly during the Death Star's destruction. Thanks for watching this episode of The Lore Master. Be sure to subscribe for more Star Wars lore videos like these in the future, and may the Force be with you.